Welcome to the Seeing Red podcast with Andy Turner and Garrett Fools, checking up on Texas policies and politics with some federal issues thrown in, like the assault weapons ban, interest rate hikes, you get it, but it's mostly Texas, since we can't ignore the big stuff either. And now, here are your hosts, Andy Turner and Garrett Fools.
Hey everybody, welcome back to this week's edition of Seeing Red. We're glad you all have joined us. I know we are in the middle of the holiday season, and gosh knows I'm trying to decorate the heck out of my house, but we're glad you tuned in, and thank you very much for that. We are joined, of course, as always, by Garrett Fools. Garrett, how's the, I know that I'm getting pictures of the baby, but how goes the decorating for Christmas with a newborn?
Oh, we did that. We got that done with the help of the mother-in-law while baby was still in the NICU.
Nice.
So as we were finalizing the general nursery, because when your baby comes 6 weeks early, not everything's done. So when we were finalizing all the stuff around the house, one of the things we did was we did a big reorganize and, making sure our decorations were where we wanted them. So we got the Christmas stuff up early because we knew we wouldn't have time once we got them home. We skipped one of the fall decorations. So, those decisions are well above my pay grade, and I am very happy to have a nice big Christmas tree.
As they should be, as the original Christmas elf. Mm-hmm. Yes, you should but I start decorating right after Halloween because it takes so much time, and I don't want to do it all in one day. Mm-hmm. And I like to enjoy the lights. So, and I don't put anything up on the outside of this house, although when my kids were little, I made sure the whole house was like Griswold. So, and there are pictures, if you dig deep enough on my Facebook, my personal Facebook, there are pictures of, the Griswold family Christmas. But anyway, hey, listen, guys, if you want to chat with us, of course, facebook.com/the Seeing Red Pod. You can find us, you can listen to us, youtube.com/the Seeing Red Pod. You can find us on Twitter. We're constantly commenting on all kinds of things at the Seeing Red Pod on Twitter, or X, formerly known as Twitter, whatever. And of course, you can email us at hosts@seeingredpodcast.com. I want to thank the Zipmeister for the social media, and of course, my dear friend Garrett for editing, because it's just not easy. What else did I want to say? Oh, hey, go Longhorns!
Yeah, we did it. We did it.
Yeah. Well, and if they didn't have enough determination to do it after what happened at that I shouldn't say near that OU frat house.
OSU.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
OSU. Okay, yeah. My fault. But I was appalled. And for those of you who don't know, on a street in the town where OSU is located, near a frat house, somebody gutted a Longhorn and wrote things we should not be speaking of on here, words we should not generally be using on here. And I was really angry about it, really angry. So anyway, and I took to Twitter and posted about that, and I'm sure you saw that, Garrett, and I was just furious. And so I imagine our Longhorns had double the reason then to go out, and they kicked butt. 49, was it 49?
Yeah, something like that. 49-21, I think, or 42.
And I was
like, it was 49.
Yeah, so I am looking forward to January 1st. Is it the Cotton Bowl? Is that what it's called?
No, it's going to be the Sugar Bowl.
Oh, the Sugar Bowl. Okay, thank you for correcting me, because I'm still learning college ball, so, and especially down here where football is, football, Friday Night Lights.
Well, what's important isn't that it's the Sugar Bowl, it's that it's the semifinal for the college football playoff. So they could play 2 more games. Hopefully they play 2 more games. They have the playoff first game against Washington. Now, what's cool is the Longhorns is the last season in the Big 12. And they went and beat every single team. They beat them last year, and they beat every single team they played that wasn't going to the SEC. So they beat all the people who were staying behind, because it's kind of a little revenge tour that the Longhorns were on to take their last conference title. And then the bowl opponent is the same bowl opponent we had last year in the Alamo Bowl. It's Washington, who we lost to 27-20. Different team, different years. So we'll see.
Washington State University, I guess?
No, the University of Washington.
Oh, okay. And then did you see that which Florida school had a perfect undefeated record and they were left out? And the reasoning was because they lost their quarterback 11 weeks in. And even though they went on to beat the team for the playoffs, the people who run their division were like, yeah, but it's a different team now without that quarterback. And I was like, no. I clearly do not understand college ball. So anybody listening that can explain this to me, like if you go undefeated, you should go to the show.
Yeah,
I mean, that
probably.
just makes sense to me.
And the thing is, this is the last year of a current format. They've already made the changes to a 12-team playoff. And it got pushed back a year because the ACC, with a couple others, really didn't want it to happen because the SEC went and poached Texas and Oklahoma. So they were mad and they didn't want to change everything. And they want to try and stop realignment. Well, the realignment happened anyway. And they were like, okay, fine, we're going to do this new tournament. It'll just be a year later. So we should be in the 12-team playoff this year. We're not. The team that got screwed over was the ACC champion. The person who was in charge of the CFP was a CFP school. Now,
you have to say what CFP is because remember,
I'm
still learning college.
Playoff.
Okay, all right. So we're in the playoffs. UT is in the playoffs.
We're one of 4 schools in the playoffs.
And then, but Florida got left out even though they're undefeated.
Florida State got left out because they're undefeated.
Okay, thank you. Florida State got left out, and can you explain to me why they got left out? I mean,
because
satisfactorily,
they're not as good as Alabama. Well, I mean, that's what the people think. The people who decided.
Well, that's...
But here's the real thing.
That was not their quote.
No, basically it is. Like, these are the 4 best teams. Those are the teams that they selected.
But their quote was, we're not putting Florida State in because they don't have the same team they started out with.
Yeah,
even though...
That's why they're not one of the 4 best teams.
I think a win is a win is a win, but I guess I've been watching NFL for so long, I think in terms of those
there's
rules,
not parity in there's not parity in the NFL like there isn't. There's parity in the NFL, there's not parity in the college football. There's just not. Like, you have a school like Liberty University who also went undefeated. They're technically in the same league as all these other schools, but they're ranked 23rd because they played a lot of really, really, really bad schools. So a win is a win is a win. Yeah, I guess it counts as a win, but it's not the same. Florida State's strength of schedule is middling.
But they're not but Liberty's not in the same division as us. As I say us, I didn't go to UT, but I live in the Austin area, so
no, they went, but they're in the bowl division. They're going to be in a New Year's Day bowl. They're playing.
I'm going to be boring everybody to pieces here, so I probably should stop asking questions about college ball. Somebody wants to reach out to me and sit down with me and explain this to me. I am happy to connect with you over Facebook or whatever. But email me and I'll call you, or I'll send you my number or whatever. But somebody needs to explain this to me because I'm like, wow, this is confusing. So, but there's some other things going on.
Yep.
Okay, you want to tell us what?
We got some mail. We got a mail from Aaron who wanted us to talk a little bit about, more or less. Aaron's under the assumption I haven't seen anywhere that Speaker Phelan is against school choice. I've never seen that, and the fact that the speaker oversaw that there was going to be floor debate about an education bill that included it, and that the House members cut it out. I mean, you can say that he allowed it to happen, but also, I haven't seen anything that says Day is against school choice.
I've seen nothing about that. And honestly, I think if I have no idea how he feels about this. I would never presume to speak for Speaker Phelan. I would say to you, perhaps there are things that he likes and things that he doesn't like, and so he's just walking the middle and letting the legislation go the way it's going to go because he may there's a whole bunch of parts of this bill, teacher raises and vouchers and, testing and this and that and the other thing. So maybe things that he's concerned with and some things he couldn't care less about and some things he feels very strongly about. And so because of that and because this is an omnibus bill and it has a lot of moving parts, he may just be taking a moderate, okay, you guys go forward and do your thing posture with it. Because there may be things that he hates in it, but he's not going to come out and say it because there are other parts that he loves. And that's, with my political experience, that would be my guess. But again, I don't know anybody that works for this speaker, so I can't speak to that. But my guess is, given how much he stuck to decorum and protocol on the floor, at least in the parts that I saw and read about, my guess is that there are things he really hated in this bill, but he maybe didn't want to kill the bill, but he maybe didn't, I don't know. But if I got to tell you, that's how I'd handle it.
All that to say, Aaron, I don't know if I agree with your premise from the get-go on your comment. So I don't really, in that it's a fact-based thing on whether the speaker is for or against school choice, and I haven't seen anything to say that he is against it. So if you have other things you'd like to ask us about, or you want to give us something, feel free to shoot it our way. We'll look at it.
Yeah, and Aaron, if you've got news articles or press releases or whatever that we just haven't seen, please feel free to send this to us. Anybody who has any information about anything we talk about that they want us to consider or they want us to talk about, send. I don't care if it's as long as it's a reliable newspaper, not like the Inquirer, but a reliable newspaper or a press release from somebody's office or whatever, please feel free to send those to us. I mean, we're there's no limit to what anybody can send to us or how often they email us or whatever. And we're happy to hear from you.
Absolutely.
So, so send us what you got. If you've got something, Aaron, please send it to me. Send it to us at hosts, HOSTS, at seeingredpodcast.com, and that goes. I know Aaron knows it, but not everybody else does. So I had to get that plug in there.
Well, actually, and Aaron sent it through the website. He went to our website and saw our contact page and sent it to us that way. So if you want to send us something in a quick note, just go to seeingredpodcast.com, and on the homepage there's a little contact form. Type up your stuff, and we'll try and get to it on the show. What's interesting though with the House is school choice seemingly dead for the moment. I haven't heard as many rumblings about the governor calling them back again to try again, so it looks like it's probably going to the primary to see what happens. The governor is getting involved. He's endorsed all the incumbents that voted for school choice, more or less, by voting against the Rainey Amendment, and he has now endorsed at least 3 challengers to Republican incumbents that voted for the Rainey Amendment. A lot of the people who voted for the Rainey Amendment are retiring, so there's no one to endorse in those races. The governor will get involved, I'm sure, and May has already announced that he's getting involved in many of those open seats. So the governor's putting his money where his mouth is. What is interesting is there's a number of candidates the governor endorsed this time that the governor endorsed against last year or 2 years or last cycle or 2 cycles ago. So this really is the governor saying he wants school choice done, and he's putting his campaign capital and his campaign political capital behind getting the school choice ESAs across the finish line. So it's going to be an interesting primary across Texas in a lot of these House races, because you have the governor getting involved on school choice. You have Ken Paxton getting involved on the people he doesn't like. So there are a number of places where the governor is behind one candidate and the attorney general is behind another, because there's a lot of places where they agree to and they disagree, and it's going to be an interesting time.
It's going to be a very interesting time. And then up in the Dallas area, I think it's, check me on this, but I think it's Collin County, Representative Frazier is in, he's going to plead guilty to several misdemeanor A, misdemeanor C charges for impersonating a public official. This was during the campaign.
Well, he's going to plead
some other things.
No contest to most of that, I think.
Right. No contest is, it may not be legally the same thing, but to the minds of our listeners, if I say, I'm not going to contest that, it means I did it. He's got to pay $8,500 in fines. He voted to impeach Paxton, and is accused of moving signs and impersonating public officials. And this is all before he was a representative. And then he voted for the impeachment of Ken Paxton. So I'm wondering what Ken Paxton is going to do if he's trying to find somebody to run against Representative Frazier.
We'll here, I think it's more important to talk about this is that this is going to the sign wars are the stupidest part of local politics,
right? And
this is just proof positive that yard signs don't win elections, but they sure as hell can lose you one. Because basically what happened was there were yard signs at a Walmart, near a Walmart, or a store,
and
a
he
big
was
box
running
store.
Against Paul Chabot.
Right. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And he was running, his opponent had signs, and he went in and said he was with code enforcement for the city. Now, he's a Dallas police officer. He lives in Collin County, which I don't think he lives in Dallas, but he lives like near Dallas. And this was up in McKinney, which is about 30 miles from Dallas. And he goes in and says he's with McKinney. Apparently, he didn't contest this. He went into the store and said he's with McKinney Code Enforcement and these signs are in violation. Well, he's not with McKinney Code Enforcement. He just didn't want him to tell him he was the candidate that was running against it and that these signs were out of compliance, and then he went and removed the signs. Now, what I don't know is whether or not the signs were illegally placed or not, because there are laws about where you can place a sign. You can't just put signs on private property, and you can't put them in the highway right-of-way, which is this road right-of-way. You can't even, like, if you own a house, you can't put a political yard sign in the right-of-way for the street. So you always need to look for, like, telephone poles to make sure you don't have it in the city easement for whatever purposes. All stupid stuff. Yard signs are nice. They are helpful in local elections. They may still be helpful in a state rep race and just boosting name ID, but that's basically all they do. So that's why you'll see, like, U.S. Senate candidates, they'll charge you for signs because you just want it because you want to have it. It does nothing for them. Their name ID is at 100%. That's why Ted Cruz has historically charged for yard signs for a donation.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, charge the county committees.
Usually it's like,
Not
for a
individuals.
$25 donation, I'll mail you a yard sign. He doesn't have his field staff doing a bunch of work putting out yard signs because it's too much staff time, and they don't return anything because they basically only generate name ID, and everyone knows who Ted Cruz is. Why would he spend any money boosting his name ID any further?
And billboards are probably just as cheap, but in another state, the county committees get the signs. Sometimes they have to pay for them, depending on what level the race is at. Mm-hmm. And then the county committees put the signs out. Like I know in the county I was in, we knew where the spots were, right, in our county.
And I think you're talking more about the 4x8s.
No, well, it didn't matter. There were spots for little ones and there were spots for big ones.
Right, and that's fair too. There are some spots where people, and everyone, they still have that, and that's the thing. So you'll know like where the intersections are when it's election season, and everyone will have their sign there, and you know who owns the properties, and you're like, oh, this is such and such, and whatever. We're gonna put stuff here on his Harvest Green site or whatever.
Right. Farmer
Well,
Brown's,
yard signs are basically just. They cause so much consternation, and there's so much drama around it, and then you get the candidates or their supporters who go out and just mess with yard signs.
Right, and look, when it comes to the supporters, not everybody is as ethical as and as educated on elections as probably most of our listeners. But I will say, if you are the candidate, don't impersonate somebody. But the bottom line is, stealing is wrong, and if you're a candidate, don't do it. And then don't pretend that you've got the authority to do it. And frankly, I'm amazed that he's only going to have to pay $8,500 in fines, because in Texas, we're all about our honor. And coming from Maryland, believe me, that is something that I value, is truth and honesty and steadfastness. And, if you, that's part of the culture here. It's very much a part of who Texans are. So, if you do that, I'm sorry, it's just, it makes me a little crazy. So yes, he is pleading no contest. And I'm sorry, but you owe your constituents an apology. You do. But anyway, so that's going on. I mean, we're coming up on election season right after the holidays, and the drama is going to be the drama. So, elections tend to be a little like soap operas, especially the lower the level of the
They get more and more
campaign.
Personal.
Yeah.
And basically people just start making stuff up and repeating everything they hear. And it's just like you just end up hearing all the craziest stuff about people, which is why it's just you hear everything.
Yeah. Do your research, people. Just because somebody said it. That's why we source things. When we say, oh, we know X, we generally say we read it in the Tribune, or we read it in the thing, or we saw it on the video, or we spoke to somebody. Go do your research. Don't just say, oh, here's a great meme that supports my position. I mean, those are fun. Don't get me wrong, but make sure it's accurate, because otherwise everybody looks silly.
Well, last weekend there was also a big meeting of the State Republican Executive Committee, the SREC. They took on many topics. So we're going to dive into this because there's a few things I wanted to talk about from it. The first was, we've been talking about this petition, or about this letter being circulated by a number of SRECs. They got 20 some odd votes or signatories that was talking about condemning anti-Semitism and defend Texas liberty, and they're meeting with Nick Fuentes.
Mm-hmm.
There was a resolution put forward that removed the specifics to defend Texas liberty and Nick Fuentes, but ended up being a resolution that said it wanted to disassociate the party from those who espouse or tolerate anti-Semitic, anti-Israel, and Holocaust denialism. I think were the three things, right? Well,
yes.
That was the original resolution. Correct. There was some arguing over making the language stronger, and it went forward to the floor where the SREC voted to remove the word espouse. So it was only... All right, they voted they voted to remove tolerate. So it was basically just people who, deny the Holocaust, they wouldn't want to associate with. But if you wanted to associate with those people, you could still go do business with the Republican Party. They got really into the finer points of grammar, and really showed probably a 6th grade level understanding. But what was funny is I think they really put a new twist on the whole term grammar Nazi, in that they were very particular about the wording of this Nazism clause and how we will or won't associate with the party.
Okay, you don't want to call out Nick Fuentes? Fine. Call out all anti-Semitism. Call out all hate speech. And I don't mean like I dislike this person's policy. I mean, I hate you because of your religion. I hate you because of the color of your skin. I hate you because, first of all, hate is such a strong thing. I just can't even. I can't even go there. But they should have put out something, and as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, they put out nothing.
I think they put out something. It was
Did they?
really watered down. They really took. Somebody mentioned this the other night on good old Twitter or X. It was really funny. Yeah. You probably remember this happening, and I think a lot of our listeners remember that this happened 2 or 3 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. There was something had happened. Not similar, but like with Israel and Palestine, and the Squad had come out and said some stuff that was anti-Semitic, and there started off as this big resolution in the House that was going to condemn, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, AOC, etc., as being anti-Semitic, and the condemning it, and then Pelosi allowed for it to get watered down, and basically just being a support of a statement saying we don't like anti-Semitism and Jews are okay. And basically Rinaldi took the Pelosi approach, and effectively Matt Rinaldi took the Nancy Pelosi approach to handling anti-Semitism in the ranks of his party, where he's kind of allowed for a watered down statement of just generally being quote unquote against anti-Semitism.
Then stop taking. That's fine. If you want a broad statement, right? If you want a broad statement saying no, there's no room in this party for anti-Semitism, racism, whatever. If you want a nice broad statement, fine. Stop taking money from DTL.
Absolutely.
In fact, I think you should be giving it back. But
and this is a good political reason to talk about why Matt Rinaldi isn't worth the salary he earns, or that he's really running the party into the ground. What's interesting is that a couple years ago, I think during West's tenure, I think it was during Alan West's tenure, or maybe right after Rinaldi took over, the party was hacked. There was an anonymous hack. The website, funny thing popped up. You might remember that happening.
Yep.
It was revealed this past week that there had been other sites that have also been, or links on the website that have been further hacked since then. And it raises a couple interesting things. One of them was underneath campaign tools. If you clicked on it, it took you to some like Russian bot thing, where it's clearly a hack spam stuff, and it's been up for at least 8 months, according to like Wayback Machine. So you can look at what websites looked like a few months ago. So it's been at least that way for 8 months. What's interesting is that no one's going to the campaign or going to the Republican Party website for campaign resources. No one's looking at the website or utilizing the website because no one found out about this for 8 months. Number two, they were told by cybersecurity experts when you get hacked by Anonymous that you basically have to nuke the website and start over on a new framework, because they're going to leave stuff that's going to get redeployed, and they're going to take the thing back over even once you think you've taken it over. And that's clearly what happened here. So the resources they do have that they've used on the website have been wasted, and now the party is still hacked. All of this while saying, hey, we're having all these problems, quote unquote, with people sending us malicious emails. Well, the malicious emails aren't the problem right now. It's your own server that's already been hacked. And you're saying that so that people can't email the SREC, you're now, by giving them just an email address for them to email, you're now funneling communications from constituents to the SREC through a form, which raises all sorts of legal liability issues for the SRECs and their personal accounts, if there were to be a lawsuit, which there's always a lawsuit. And so you raise that liability, one. Number two, it's now going through the compromised server. So now who the hell else has all that communication? Beyond the fact that now you're just monitoring what constituents are saying to the SREC from the tech level of the leadership of the party. It is such a level of inept leadership that if I thought Rinaldi was any spotter, it would just be corruption. But this is just laziness to a degree that is negligent. It's a negligence. This guy can't do anything right.
Oh, and the other problem I have is literally half of his job is fundraising. And I haven't seen anything from the RPT fundraising wise in months.
Because they only have one donor. They just go to the big guy out in West Texas and say, we need another few $100,000 to keep this thing going.
And I think, I could be wrong, I think it was the Tribune that actually pointed out that, yeah, they have one donor who donated like, I don't know, it was $5,000 or $15,000. And then there were some very small donations, like $5, $10, whatever. But like a high percentage of the money came from DTL, Defend Texas Liberty. And yeah, no, that's not how we do. And that's not your job, is to go find a guy to, no, you should be raising as much money as possible. What part do you not understand about supporting Republicans who are running for office? And furthermore, stop getting involved in elections. Your job is to support Republicans and gain seats. I'm very disappointed in Matt Rinaldi, and I'm a little bit angry about it. I'm sorry. There should be no question that nobody in the Republican Party leadership will tolerate hatred. Hatred of religion, hatred of skin, hatred of who you love. You may not like it individually, and rock on, I am not taking away anybody's right to feel, to I know that, who you love can be a very, what's the word I'm trying to say? A very contentious discussion. But as a party, it's not your business. It's not your business. So, I just don't think we have hatred for it. You can have discussions about it, this, that, and the other thing. But I personally don't think that we can afford to be turning anybody away who believes in, smaller, more efficient government and less taxes. And then goes further right from there, bonus points. But at a minimum, we shouldn't be turning people away who agree with us. And we should not be hating on them.
Well, that's because the people in charge don't care about fiscal issues. They only care about social issues. So they only care about social issues. They only care about social issues being things like abortion, gay marriage or gay rights, or whatever, LGBT, whatever you want to call it, alphabet rights.
Liquor, gambling.
Yeah. And those sorts of things. They want you to hold the line on those issues. Those are the issues that really matter. But those aren't the issues that anyone in the general those are the only issues only matter to primary voters. Those are not they don't only matter, but those issues primarily do not come into play
in the general.
In post Roe they do, but before Roe those issues didn't really come to play in general elections.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I just don't think this is the kind of leadership that I would expect to see. And I've seen some very good leaders of state parties do wonderful things.
Yeah.
But this is not what we're seeing from Mr. Rinaldi is not gaining us seats in either chamber. And that's the bottom line. That's his job.
One last thing I want to talk about from the SREC meeting. There was the SREC did something okay for once. There was a group that you may have come across called Texit. These are people who they want Texas to secede and become its own country. What their current political action involves majorly trying to get basically a referendum to be on the general election ballot at some point that basically asks Texans if they'd like to secede or not. That's their big thing. Where they're at in the process is they're trying to get that similar wording. They're actually not even up to that point. They're trying to get onto the Texas Republican primary ballot a question to primary voters on whether they would support that vote happening. And you can force that issue if you get over 100,000 signatures. And they say they have 102,000 signatures. Well, the Resolutions Committee can just put it through. Now they say they have 102, or they can force it to go to verification. And they looked at it and they voted 3-8 to make it go to verification. Because you and I both know, if you do any petition signatures, you're doing real good if you have a 70% rate. 70%-ish is a good rate. And by that I mean that 70% of what those signatures you turn in are valid. Because the signature for a petition has to be a registered voter. It has to be a signature that can be validated, so it's it's the right person.
It's not a registered voter. Hold on. It's not a registered voter. It's somebody who has voted recently. I can't register as a Republican. I was told
it's a registered voter.
Okay. I trust you. You can explain to me.
And actually, if you're kind of right on this, you do have to. So with the petition process in the state of Texas, it's called a semi-open primary process. By signing that petition that you want that on the Republican vote, or signing a candidate's petition, signing any petition for the primary ballot at all, you have then said that you swear an affirmation that you're part of the Republican Party for the next 2 years. So the only primary you're legally allowed to participate in at that point is the Republican primary for the next 2 years.
Okay.
So it's
and
so technically it's just registered voters, but by signing that, if a Democrat were to sign it, they wouldn't be ineligible to vote in their party's primary.
Correct. And also, having done enough of getting the signatures for people and issues and this and that and the other thing, people will sign your clipboard and they'll put down like deputy dog and so literally it is a guarantee that 10%, literally guaranteed the 10% of all the signatures, but it doesn't matter. So Garrett, I have a dear friend of mine, John. So
that's to say they're saying they have 102. They're not saying they have 102 valid. And they're pretty close, so even if they are saying they have 102 valid, that they're going to be real freaking close to being, even if they force it.
Well, first of all, even if we own the House, the Senate, and the White House, okay? Even if we own all of those, which, wow, that would be awesome. Even if we own all of them, they are not going to... Everybody's not going to be on board with Texas, And then I want you to think about this. We don't have a property tax, and we count on federal funds for a lot of things, right? So if we're sending all that money, there's your argument. If we're sending all that money to the federal government, do you think with the, I don't even know, trillions of dollars that we are in debt, that they're going to go, oh yeah, no, you guys want to withdraw from the United States and be your own country? Yeah, go ahead. No problem. We won't miss the money.
No, but
seriously?
No, it's no. Assuming Texas can secede, which under the 1860, after the stuff that happened after the Civil War, there's no legal right to secede, which always makes me laugh when people say, oh, Texas has a right to secede because of our treaty in 1845. It's interesting. That's an interesting legal theory. But Texas has already seceded once, and now the federal government says they can't. So, on a legal basis, if you're trying to do this bloodlessly, there's already precedent that says we can't secede. We did it, and they fought a bloody war over it. So
right, and it does, and Garrett isn't expressing his opinion on whether or not he thinks we should, and I'm not.
Oh, we should absolutely should not. I am expressing my opinion. We should not.
Okay,
secede.
well, you go ahead. You go ahead. That rock on, but because I'd really have to sit and examine the issues of whether philosophically I think it's a good idea, and I'm not willing to do that today. The problem is, it ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen. So.
Right. All right, guys. Well, Texit, not gonna happen, and it's a stupid idea that Andy's has friends on the other side, so she's being nice about it. But I can speak for myself when I say big dumb, very stupid, and very annoying people that show up to our events. For me, it's treason. I mean, they might be nice people, but they're specifically working to. No, they're doing it within the. It's not treason. Yeah, it's borderline. But it's a bunch of people trying to cash a check that they can't back up because secession is not going to happen bloodlessly, and I'm not willing to fight for it, and I'm not sure how many people who are.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of philosophical parts to Texit that I do not understand, but I look at the goal and I go, now it doesn't matter how right you are or how wrong you are, it's not going to happen. And I really wish you would take your passion and put it into something practical that could happen.
Even looking at the issue dispassionately, it's just not going to happen. So why are you even wasting your energy on it?
Right? Yeah. No. But I went through this in Maryland, and it was like, guys, you can't. The Eastern Shore of Maryland cannot just secede from Maryland and join up with, Texas. You need an act of Congress, and nobody's going to allow that. So it's just not going to happen. It would be shocking to say the least. But anyway, so I want to thank you guys for joining us. I hope your Christmas preparations are going along swimmingly. We will be here next week, and then we are going to take a break and come back after the new year. Keep an eye on our social media, and we will and we'll put it up on the website as well, seeingredpodcast.com. So that you know when the new episodes drop. And if you have not liked and subscribed to the podcast, please make sure you're doing that, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Apple, whether it's on Spotify or Google or wherever you're getting your podcast. Make sure that you like and subscribe, because we need to know that you're out there and you're listening. And please do feel free to leave comments anywhere you want. You'll get a response. We're happy to have you, and we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for joining us.
Bye, guys.
You've been listening to the See in Red podcast. It's always Texas politics and beyond. We present the facts and opinions. The See in Red podcast with your hosts, Andy Turner and Garrett Fools. Thank you, and tune in next week. And please do us a favor. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode.